Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to coming to come train as president. Again, my name is Karen Chang Meiselman. I am the second district president. I have a sophomore going to Galileo. And, again, I'm so happy that you guys have come to get a little bit of training. It's an hour long. I'm trying not to bog you down too much information, but this is basically to get you familiar with just starting out. I will give you the first like couple of months to just get yourself started, to see where you're at. We're going to do a full-on training in August. And I will give you at the end of the slide presentation, there'll be a QR code if you've not already signed up for the training on August 29th, in person. So, but this is just kind of like an hour's worth, of information that you will need to just get started with your board and your community. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Oops. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Um, okay. So a quick reminder, you are not alone. Second District is here to help you in any way we can. Never hesitate. If you have a question, please email me. At president@sfpta.org. I am always available. I'll try to get to your question as quickly as possible. And if I don't know it, I have my mentor and she can help with answering any questions. So again, don't ever hesitate to ask. Um, just want to give you the basic policies. PTA is nonpartisan, which means that we must never support or oppose political parties or candidates, including those running for school boards on nonpartisan slates. However, PTA may adopt a position expressing its support for or opposition to issues dealing with the health, safety, education, or general well-being of children and youth, but only to the extent permissible with respect to the requirements of each PTA's tax-exempt status. Nothing in the law or in PTA bylaws prohibits members as individuals from exercising their civic responsibilities in personal and partisan ways, including running for office. We're also non-commercial, which means that the non-commercial policy requires that the PTA name or the names of PTA officers not be to be used in conjunction with the commercial activities of other organizations, including but not limited to the promotion of their goods and services, and also non-sectarian, which the National PTA and its unit, district, and state PTAs welcome into membership people representing a diversity of cultures, ethnic backgrounds, political and religious beliefs. Creed, color, race, and economic status are irrelevant to qualifications for membership. PTA should be hospitable to all, supporting no one religion over another, and according each faith equal respect and consideration. So also, the bylaws and your standing rules are your GPS. So if you encounter a question, always go back to your bylaws and your standing rules. If somebody has a question about a certain thing that comes up in your meeting, everything should all be on there. Um, Also utilize the California State PTA website at capta.org. That's where you would find all your information. Definitely utilize the toolkit. Use it and use it often. Most of any questions that you have, if you first go to the toolkit and see if you can find it, and if not, then just come to me. It's fine. And also there's a leaders website which is also on capta.org, which you can sign up. And it also has a multitude of like articles and just anything you need to find out about your role. Go ahead and just look there. And your parliamentarian should be able to work with Robert's Rules of Order and So definitely have your parliamentarian look at that. And then also utilize the National PTA website. They have a lot of websites, as information there as well. So let's see. So the
Wait,
PTA, oh,
Karen,
yes.
sorry. I
Yeah.
just have a quick comment. So, I should have, if your names have been entered into Future Fund as far as the officers go, then you've all been added to the Second District PTA leadership listserv as well. So that's another way that you can ask questions of your peers. Not just the presidents are on there, but it's basically all the board members from all the schools. So even though somebody might be a secretary now, they may have held the president's position in another school. So we figured the more people who are informed and or share information, that if you have a question, sometimes it's just like, hey, we want to do this fundraiser. Has anybody done something like this before? That's also an avenue for you to ask questions. The forum's there for you to use.
Good. Thank you, Sharon. Okay. So yep.
Hold on, Sharon, could you explain, or Karen, what Future Fund Connect is for people that are new and might not really understand what that is?
Yeah, it's our new platform. So most of you might know My PTA Easy. We have moved over from that to Future Fund Connect, which is a new software that basically you would enter your board members in there. And the California PTA would be able to, have a list, and also a list for us at Second District, all the officers on in the city. And also there's the software also gives you the opportunity to download paperwork, any paperwork you have, like maybe tax forms, your bylaws might be in there as well. And it's also a way to update your bylaws. Um, we can go into that later. That's a whole different can of worms. Right. But the future fund, definitely you can download your information on there so you have it all in one place. So yeah, and you should have received an invite from me, and please accept that invite. If it has expired, please email me and I can resend you the invite, because it only lasts for a week. After I send it, the timer goes down, and then, then it expires, and then I have to resend it to you again. So if you didn't get it, please email me. So that's it. Okay, let me continue. So the PTA programs, events, membership plan, and the fundraising plan and the budget must be approved by your association at the first meeting of the year and before any plans are implemented. So everything needs to be crystal clear to the association what your plans are for the year. Again, you're the president, you run all the meetings, and you need to let your community know exactly what's going on at every community meeting. So here's your presidential duties. So you preside over the executive board and general association meetings. You approve communication materials that are distributed and posted. You appoint a chair and committee members. You're also the ex officio member of all committees except for the nominating committee. You're the official PTA contact. You attend second district meetings. And you also definitely should meet with your school administrator, your principal on a regular basis. You should become familiar with all the financial procedures. You are the primary check signer. You sign contracts, and the contracts must have two signatures. And you also sign all the payment authorization forms. And just in the red box, this is really important. PTA check signers may not be related by blood, marriage, or live in the same household. So that's definitely very important. Your board planning. So just when starting out, review your bylaws, get everyone together, just have them review it, look it over, just so you're familiar with it. Um, check out your procedure books, check out what your previous president, your board has, just look over everything. And if you need to do the appoint committee chairs and officers, do so. Start getting your calendar together with events and your meetings. Just try to lay everything out, including programs and fundraisers. Definitely get input from the principal, from the teachers, from community, just see what they need, like maybe put out a form saying, what would you like to see happen at school this year? And just put it out to your community and they can give you some feedback and then you can work on that. And definitely also work on the budget for the year. And just a little reminder, elected versus appointed positions. So you must, required by nonprofit law, president, secretary, and treasurer. Everything else is mandatory, but again, if you can get these roles filled, like executive vice president, financial secretary, financial reviewer, and historian, I mean, please do if you can fill those roles. And the appointed roles by the president are parliamentarian, corresponding secretary, and the standing committee chairs. And as far as the principal and teacher representatives, they aren't appointed, they're automatically on the board. It's just a given. So your meetings, board meetings need to be held every month, virtual or in person. Definitely set a calendar for the year. It should be in the beginning of the month. Ideally, it's, like the first week or second week of school of the month. And when you have your general meeting, you need to inform your community the date of the general meeting 10 days before. And it should be around the third or fourth week of the month. And general and community meetings can be held monthly or bi-monthly. It's your choice. I mean, depending on you can feel it out. You can always like change it. But you need to let people know that you are changing it if you decide maybe monthly is not ideal, and then you decide to do it bi-monthly. So just feel out your community and see what fits best for your situation. And ideally, it should be in person, but you can also use virtual. I honestly think it's better to just have it in person because it's nice to have people back together and just parents mingling and just, it's just a better setup, as in just rather, being on virtual is never fun. I think it's much more fun if everyone meets in person. So board planning, the budget. So again, very important, look over previous year's budget and that will be your starting point. The cost of doing your business items. So also keep in mind, like you will need to pay for insurance. You will need to have some supplies like paper and envelopes, tax filings. You will need money and also bank fees. So you always have to kind of put that on a line item on your budget to pay for those things. And insurance guidelines, AIM insurance is the PTA insurance that we use all through California. Also program ideas with potential income and expenses. So kind of like think about our estimate of what you think you're going to spend and how much do you think you're going to take in. Fundraising ideas, like when you do programs for fundraising, of course, that definitely will come into your budget. And then also membership goals. When you run a membership drive, You may have to buy popsicles for the class that has the most members, and the kids get a popsicle party or a cupcake party or something. You always have to think of all those other things that you will need to purchase throughout the year. And again, just remember if it's always been done, if people say it's always been done this way, it doesn't mean it continues to be the way it is. You can change things up. I mean, you are the president now, and your board can change things up. And also very important, you cannot pay bills that are not listed in your budget. All expenses and income need to be credited on a line item. So basically, I'm going to go through like 3 months of what you need to be working on. Um, I will have a document that will list the whole year. I'm not going to go through it. I'm just going to give you the first 3 months just to get you started. But there will be a doc where I lay it out month by month to see what you need to do. So right now, take some time, relax before all the fun starts when school starts again in August. Um, you also start thinking about back to school events. So as far as like having a barbecue before the beginning of school, that's something you can think of and plan with your board. Also, like your membership chair can set up a table at the barbecue and at the get together, and they can have a table and have computer Chromebooks open to Totem, which is the online membership platform. Parents can sign up during the picnic. So, that's an easy way to get people on board. Um, Start to think about booking fundraisers and programs. You're official to sign the contracts. Post your budget and agenda for your first general association meeting. Again, post membership. Visit the bank. That's really important. You need to change over whoever was the treasurer and the other signatory to the bank. You need to like take off their previous people's names and then add yours. You will need to present that in the minutes. You will, so usually the bank calls for that information. So you will need to like bring in a letter saying that, showing it in the minutes that you are the official people that are on the board and you're going to be official signatories. And as I said, I add the new board members to Totem, which is the online, if applicable. Some of you may not be using Totem, but please do if you can. And then also add your board members to Future Connect and make sure they have access. Mostly, it would be the president, the treasurer, maybe the secretary can have access, not anyone else. I would say those three definitely should have access. And also access to any social media or email accounts, because you're going to need that to make posts, to make announcements, on your social media. Most schools do have social media, so definitely make sure you have access to that. And also, this is not your job, this is the treasurer's job, but you just have to make sure it's happening. Make sure the PTA's annual financial report and financial review are completed, and then start making arrangement for tax filings. So, but it's something to think about, plan ahead. It's better to plan ahead. Month 2, host your back to school events. You know, Start promoting PTA, launch your membership drive, post your budget. Oh, I said membership, sorry, promote membership, keep promoting membership, and collect conflict of interest forms from all board members. And that you can find at the California PTA. You can look up that form. You can just put in conflict of interest forms PTA, and it should bring it up. And all members should sign that form. And then month 3, hold your executive board meeting. Again, promote membership. Hold your first general association meeting of the year, and then you approve your calendar, your programs, your fundraisers, and the budget. And then check your calendar for PTA sponsored activities going on. Make sure your year-end financial review has been completed. So I think that's it but as I said, I will have a document at the end of this slide presentation that links to a Google Doc. It will plan out your whole year, and you can look at it at your leisure. So I just wanted to show you executive board meetings, what happens. This is where all the decisions are made. It's held monthly. All elected and appointed board members, which is the principal, the teacher. The teacher it doesn't have to be the same teacher. Teachers can switch off and come to a meeting. They don't have to be tied down every month to come. So teachers can definitely switch off, but they are definitely an important part of your board to bring anything that teachers might have, questions and issues to the PTA. So it's really important that you get a few of them involved. Also, ideally, a family liaison, counselors, the wellness coordinator, they should come on too, because they probably have some issues that they want to bring up. And, it's good to talk amongst everyone to see where everyone is at. What happens is you plan and execute the calendar in the fundraisers and family engagement events. You manage the finances of the PTA, you fill vacancies on the board, and then you handle the everyday business that comes up for the PTA. So the executive board, again, working together, you run and manage your PTA. You pay the bills. You create community. You fill vacancies. You communicate and collaborate. You participate in meetings, present reports to the executive board and the association. And also, really important, you are protecting your PTA assets. You got to be fiduciary responsible. This is your school's money, like you want to control it as well as you can. And I know the treasurer is supposed to be part of that, but you need to be definitely part of that as well. You need to, pay attention to the numbers. You need to kind of look over some stuff just to make sure that everything's on track. And then also, again, use your best practices to handling the money. And I wanted to give you a sample of your executive board meeting agenda. So your secretary will write this up. This is just a template, just to give you a view of what the meeting agenda entails. So you need to call to order. You note the time that started, and then all the names of the people who are attending the meeting. Note that the quorum was met, and then you approve the minutes from the previous meeting. But since this is your first meeting, forget that. But moving on. Next, you would have the principal come on, give their updates, have the treasurer talk about the finance report, talk about the beginning balance, income, expenses, ending balance, any reports. And then you have other people come on, your vice president, your committee chairs, teacher reps, family and sports, but even the sports person who's in charge, they may have something that they need to report and also add on to your community meeting agenda. And then you just talk, there may not be any old business, but there may. Put in your new business, and then you adjourn and you note the time when it was. Yeah. Sharon.
Yes. So sometimes during the executive board meeting, not sometimes, a lot of times during the executive board meeting is where you might have more extensive conversations about something that comes up. So let's just say one of the teachers wants to present a program or something that they're asking for funding on something. And so they present it to the executive board and then whatever they're doing, and then they exit. And then the executive board will kind of discuss in a little bit more detail in terms of whether or not that's something that as a board and as a school community you want to do. And then whatever transpires from that conversation, it gets presented to membership so that the extensive conversations happen in the executive board meeting. Decisions are made, and then you present it to membership. So you can say, oh, Miss Karen presented a program on a field trip that, everybody in the school eventually will be able to attend if they're in fifth grade. And, we're going to provide, we agreed to provide X amount of funding for this. La, 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 la. And you explain it to membership, you present what your decisions were, and then ultimately members may vote on that. So it's basically to save time during the general meeting that you're not having long drawn out discussions, because you as an executive board would have had that long drawn out discussions about the pros and cons of whatever it happens to be in the executive board meeting, and then you present what your decision was. And there may be questions, and then you've already discussed it, so you can answer the questions or present any answers to potential objections that people might have, or really it's more questions than objections, but it happens in the executive board meeting. And then this way it just keeps the general membership meeting flowing without a lot of whatever
Exactly.
extensive conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You have to be mindful of your time limit. I mean, I know people do sometimes do like to talk a lot, but you need, maybe the secretary just can keep their eye on the time, and they can interrupt and say, okay, we're already at this time point. We need to kind of keep the meeting moving. And that's fine, like you don't want to hold people over. You don't want to, you try to keep everything on time, be mindful of that. But, you know, conversations do tend to waver a little bit, but try to just keep it on track. Oh. Anyway, thanks, Sharon. That was really important. Thank you for sharing that. And then your general association meetings. So this is where your members are informed and approve things. So throughout the year, check your bylaws. You can monthly or bi-monthly. Anyone who is a PTA member, plus the board, committee chairs, the teacher reps, anyone who's a member, they can come to this meeting. What happens? The approval of the executive board actions approves the budget, calendar, programs, and fundraisers. You adopt the bylaws when they are changed. If they're not changed, don't worry about it. And you also elect the nominating committee, but then that's a little bit down the road. So, but it still needs to be done. And again, here's a sample of a general association meeting agenda. Again, your secretary's in charge of this, but you should know also how it works. But it's a bit essentially the same template as the board meeting, except no, actually it's exactly the same. So, make sure that people sign in that come to your meeting, make sure, note excuses, absence. So sometimes board members cannot be there. So make sure you put a note saying that they are excused. And then basically everything's the same as far as like the principal's update, and then the treasurer will present the financial reports, and then any other reports that the committee chairs or the teacher or the family liaison or the sports or the wellness person, they can do reports as well. Work on new business, and then again, adjournment, note the time. And then as far as meeting tips, and it applies to all the meetings, have an agenda always. The meetings that include approval of the previous minutes, so make sure you need to look at those minutes that were from the previous meeting. Do a quick glance of everything, and then you can put it to the association, whether they have any questions or any comments. Put that out there. Again, financial information should include a time frame, income, expenses, and both a beginning and end balances. Committee reports, if there are any, the approval of the calendar, the budget, the fundraisers, and the family engagement programs. Make sure that all the board and committee members are prepared to present if they are going to during the meeting. Plan for speakers of interest. at the general meeting. Follow parliamentary procedure and strive for civility. So make sure that nothing goes awry. Try to keep control of people in case things do go awry. Try to always be mindful about trying to just keep things civil. 'Cause sometimes things get a little heated, but again, you're the president. You should keep things civil. And also, here's a few tips on how to get parents to come to meetings. So, offer childcare. Your after school program should be able to provide it. You can definitely pay, a number of caregivers in the after school program and have them take the kids into a different room and have them, watch a movie or do some art project or whatever, whatever to keep the kids occupied while you're at the meeting. Have guest speakers that are of interest. So have somebody come in, find a speaker about maybe social media or maybe talk about bullying or, anything that you think of that would be of interest that you would like to know about. Definitely put your feelers out there and find people that will be willing to come to your meeting and talk. And definitely offer translation for your meeting. SFUSD, you can definitely email them. They have a translation program that you can have. You need to give them a fair advance notice because they tend to um, book up so you can talk to somebody in the translation office for Spanish, Chinese. I don't know if maybe they have Vietnamese also. But again, definitely ask to see if they can send somebody over to do translation for your meeting. And also the most important thing, food, provide food because again, you're probably going to have your meeting in the evening. Have pizza, have people maybe even have a potluck, have people bring in food, and have snacks and drinks. Food always brings people in. Also, have kids perform. Maybe you can talk to one of the teachers, that art teachers or a music teacher. Have them come in and perform. Because again, what brings parents in is if their kid's performing, they're coming. So if that's an incentive, definitely, do that. Also, maybe have a drawing for a gift card or even your spiritware giveaway. Anybody comes in, gets a $20 gift card and a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or a hat or whatever, anything to just have an incentive for people to come to the meeting. Also, promote your meeting. The principal has, I'm sure, their newsletter. Have them definitely put in, hey, PTA meeting coming up. Also on social media and put up posters, put up flyers, any way that you can, promote that you are having the meeting. So, and also, this is really important. Non-PTA members are welcome to come to the meeting, but they cannot vote or make motions or participate in a debate. So, and to officially vote, a member must have paid dues 30 days prior. So again, have your community come, but you need to designate the ones who are PTA members and those who aren't. Maybe you can put a sticker on them or whatever, or maybe, because they need to refrain from voting if there is something that does need to be voted on. But again, you want everyone to come to your meeting. But again, if they need to be a member in order to vote, make motions, and participate in a debate. So thought I'd put that out there. And also very important, the 3-to-1 rule, which most people don't know about. For every one fundraiser, you need to hold 3 non-fundraising community events paid by the PTA. So let's say you do moms and muffins or daddies and donuts or any sort of like um, event that you put on, the PTA needs to pay for it. And it would be totally free for anyone to come. That's because again, fundraising is not the sole main purpose of your PTA. It is aimed at helping parents and children or advocating for school improvements. So keep that in mind. And again, here's all the resources. Definitely utilize your toolkit. Everything PTA, definitely go onto this doc. I have listed, many things on there that you need to look over. There's a checklist, there's first tasks, programs, advocacy, engagement ideas, and other useful links. It's all in that document. Please look through it. And to the to-do list for the PTA, PTSA, remember I talked about the whole month, the whole year layout. This is on this sheet, you will see the whole layout for your year. And also, Second District also has a YouTube channel. So please utilize that. We have videos from years of, information about trainings and president and secretaries and treasurers, but they're still all relevant. So if you have some time, definitely please go and check that out. And then also very important, how to reach us. Here's our email. Again, my email is president. We have our website. We also please subscribe to our Instagram and Facebook. And then as Sharon mentioned about an e-newsletter, the Second District Presidents Group has a specific one just for presidents. So you can ask questions amongst all your peers. If you have any tips, if you have any, as I said, any questions, please put it on the Google group. Last year we've had a very robust conversation with all the presidents. So we want to continue that. So please do so when you get anything that you want to put out there. And also very important, if you have not already signed up for our in-person training, the QR code is on there, and also the RSVP form is also on here. This is our agenda. It's from 10 to 2. We are also having Superintendent Maria Sue is going to come and visit us at lunchtime. So please come. There's no fee. And you will get training. All your officers, please come to our training. It's really very informative. And that's it. So we're going to open it up to questions. Sharon, is there anything or?
There were questions regarding whether budgets can be changed or modified during the school year. So yes, they can be amended depending because we know that your school year is dynamic and things pop up. So as long as you have the funding for it, yes, that can be done. I also wanted to clarify that there's one Google group now and not one just dedicated to the president. So all the board members from all
Okay.
the schools are all on one listserv. But like I
Okay.
said, it's like,
Oh, sorry. I thought it was still the press.
no,
Oh, okay. Cool. Great. That I think.
no, that was a lot of work. So,
Oh, I know, I bet.
so yes, but I mean, as a collective group, everybody's very supportive. And then there are a lot of new questions. There are a lot of questions that come up at the beginning of the school year. So don't ever think that the question that you have is too elementary or too dumb to ask. It's just, if you don't know, ask the question because everybody that's on that listserv has been in your position before. So we want to make this as easy as possible for all of you to succeed, not only in your position, but also to start your school year off successfully. So
Exactly.
and the best way is for people to ask questions because if you have that question, there's probably somebody else who either A, had the same question or B, didn't know that they should have had that question and you just help them. So information is fantastic.
Exactly. Great. Um, do we need to go through the chat or does,
Yeah, there's a really good question from Kimia about when you have your general meeting and improve it and the designation of month 3 of the PTA year.
oh, should I?
The question it was mentioned that month 3 is the first general association meeting. However, doesn't the budget have to be approved sooner, like in August? So actually, Kimia, most schools actually have a straw budget. Most PTAs or PTSAs will approve a straw budget in April, and that will carry you through your first association meeting in August or September. So those are expenses that would happen over the summer, checks to be dealt out, checks to be, um, uh, you know, like budget stuff to be approved ahead of time, before the actual
Right,
association will
right.
vote on your current budget. So your school, I think you're at TECA PTA, and they should have had a straw budget already in effect. And if they don't, um, definitely get in touch with us one-on-one and we can help you with that.
Great.
There's also a question
Okay.
from Joyce with respect to since Mission Bay is just starting up, is there a Google nonprofit or enterprise license CAPTA can extend for them to use? And do people get a PTA email address? So I know a lot of people in board positions have created a specific email address for themselves using Gmail so that it helps them separate PTA related information from information that they're getting from their friends and all this other stuff. So
Right.
there is that in terms of a specific PTA email address. If you're talking about something more like a domain name type of email address, so if it was like Joyce at Mission Based School, I some people do, some people don't, depending on the makeup of their school itself. I don't know offhand, and I don't know if any of the other board members that are on the in this meeting, whether CAPTA has a Google Workplace license to share with individual units. Like I haven't
Hmm.
heard
No,
of.
I don't think they have a license for that. I think they do share in what you've done. Like most units do what you've set up for us, where we have an email address that's like treasure@sfpta.org.
Yeah, but ideally, you shouldn't use that. You should actually try to, because there's something with Future Fund that if you like use a generic email, like just say like treasurer at, missionbayschool.org. Once you change, like the next person, whoever's name is on there, their name remains on that, even though you've changed officers, that initial person who made that email is going to be the same. I'm just talking in terms of future fund. That's something that actually was brought up recently. Um, that maybe you should, when you do create an email, you should just put like you would write, do Joyce at missionbay.org. And then you can change it as new board members change over. You know what I mean? Is that?
Yeah, I think Future Fund was trying to keep the historical information pertaining to the school, especially as it relates to financial stuff. So
Right.
rather than to use, to your point, Karen, the generic treasurer at, and sorry, Joyce, we're picking on Mission Bay, treasurer at Mission Bay, it's better to call out the treasurer's name because then the next year it might be Megan at Mission Bay School, who's now the treasurer. And so
Right,
when they look back in the history, Future Fund, I mean, I should say not Future Fund, CAPTA will use the information that Future Fund is culling as far as
yeah,
the financial reports that get submitted that way.
right,
Then they have a record of, okay, it was first Joyce who made, whatever the changes were. And then in 5 years down the line, it was Megan who was then the
right,
treasurer. And so that there's historical information with respect to possibly how decisions were made and et cetera, that they're trying to preserve rather than to use just one generic position at such and such. That they're trying to call out the difference and having a name in there at least to
right.
differentiate and to maintain the historical knowledge. And that's what they're doing on your behalf so that you don't have to worry about the historical knowledge. Because a lot of times, as people and families filter out of your school, you kind of lose some of that history. And so, if you ever
Yes,
needed to go back and find out, CAPTA will have that information.
yeah. Okay. Um, as I said, should we go through the chat or let me see. Ooh, there's a lot of questions on here. Um, unless
I,
everyone,
oh, I was just gonna chime. I was commenting in the chat. At Sanchez, we got a free like Google Suite, nonprofit account, and then we bought. There was in existence already a PTA domain that we that went up, and then we snagged it. So then we mapped it to our Google account. But then we just have accounts like president at, treasurer at, and our like webmaster swaps those out every time there's a new person. So he just reassigns the account, but all of the records regarding like that email remain in that email account. So the previous president, or I mean, the current president can go back and see all of the record of the emails and stuff from the previous. The current president can see all the records from the previous president in that email account. So we don't. So it's all shared in that regard.
The thing you just need to be cautious about that, and I know a lot of schools have done that, is it is possible to delete messages either on purpose or by accident. So you sometimes will have the full historical information and sometimes you might not. But as far as, and it's more with respect to the financial reports that CAPTA is most concerned with, of having the delineation of a specific treasurer name or a different named email address associated with the treasurer's position each year. So, and granted, you might be, you can hold the position for up to 2 years in an election back to back, but it's more that information that they're trying to preserve is the financial history for the school so that that doesn't get lost.
Yeah, got it.
okay. All right. Well, actually, let's just open it up to any people can unmute. Because it looks like I'm looking through the chat, like everyone, Melissa and Tina and Sharon have answered your questions there. So if you,
Could you stop sharing the
I'm going
slide?
to stop
Okay,
sharing. Yeah.
thank you.
So,
And did you link the slide deck to the chat?
oh
Sorry, I
yeah,
missed.
definitely. Yeah. And I'm definitely going to send out everything as well. But let me see. I'll link let me do that. Oh, can we do that later? Because it's not on a Google Doc.
You're talking about the slide presentation?
Yeah, the slide presentation, yeah, because I had to download it from Canva and I don't know how you link it.
Oh, you
Well,
can
you
have
can,
a free Canva link too.
Is there a link there?
It says share at the top right.
Oh, okay. Anyway, does anyone have any questions? I mean, I can do that while we guys speak. Hold on. And you can unmute.
Hi, this is Amanda Worsfold. I'm the incoming PTA president in Mira Loma
Hi.
Elementary, and I had asked a question in the chat about how granular the budgets need to be. And there was a couple responses that it can be kind of a bucket of money. My example was like 3,000 for Teacher Appreciation Week. In our meetings, we have tended to get really bogged down in we're going to spend this smaller amount of money on this and this other smaller amount of money on this, like all these little granular things like tacos, donuts, coffee, like all the different things. And I guess I know that I have like some moderation between different board members on how much of that we need to actually be um overseeing. Like if donuts is $200 instead of $150, for example, like do we have to change the budget for that? Like I'm confused about that. And then somebody made a comment about releasing funds. It's not enough to just have the budget. If you could just kind of clarify um around that, that'd be great.
Yeah. Melissa, do you want to speak on that?
Sure. So let's see. A few things about budget is that we always say a budget is dynamic, so it does change. And about releasing funds. And so to your point, yes, it does not need to be so granular. So if you set aside, in your you've got a $5,000 budget, just say, and you have $100 is for teacher appreciation. Hopefully you keep that conversation out of your board meeting and your association meeting, especially. You don't want to be like, well, we're going to spend $5 on this and $5 on that. Like that doesn't need to be in your budget. But you could do that in committee, just sort of offline, and then bring it back to the board and present that and discuss it a little more if needed. But a budget is never just a ticket to spend. So you do have a budget, but that doesn't mean you can just go ahead and spend it. So what it's called is called releasing funds. So you would vote to release funds, and you could do that at the board level and then bring that same vote to the membership for final approval. So you would vote, say you have $100 in your, or say $1,000 in your budget line item for that teacher appreciation. And so we'd say, well, we don't need to spend all of it right now, but we need to release half of it. So we'll release $500 of that. And that gives you like the permission to go ahead and spend that. You would still say you spent $5 on this and $5 on that. You still ratify each expense. So the process, just kind of overview, would be you have your big budget, you vote to release funds. It might be the whole line item or just a part of that line item. And then you would also ratify any actual checks or expenses you have written. Did I miss anything?
Does
You
it
were
make
asking?
sense, Amanda?
I'm just wondering how we're not going to spend all of every meeting not voting on budgets and releasing funds.
Yeah, you
Yes.
do it.
I have
You
the
can do it
same
at the first meeting.
I have the same question because we've always approved our
Okay.
budget. Like I've been on the board but not been the president, but we have never voted to release funds. Like
Same.
I've
I
done
would
it for
say that it's
4
probably the
years.
least common thing. Yeah, it's probably the least
Okay.
common thing that is done. It is part of the procedure, and what it does is just adds to you're not, the PTA police are not coming after you if you don't do this. It adds to transparency. And if there are some PTAs deal with transparency issues and people being concerned about that, that adds to like helping with that problem. So if you're already doing that, that just helps maybe prevent a problem. But PTA police are not coming after you if you don't vote to release funds every time. I'll say a little bit
Okay.
more about this is that it's the treasurer's, part of the treasurer's role is to have is they're the chair automatically of the budget committee. So that budget committee is where you hash out most of the things. So again, you're not taking up all the time of a board meeting and certainly not of an association or membership meeting. That treasurer, people can be appointed or volunteer to be on that small committee, but you spend that time maybe in the summertime working out the budget. And then you present that if you've worked out all your details, again, not at a granular level, high level, you bring that to the board over the end of the summer or maybe their August meeting, their first meeting, have the board, go through and approve, and then you present that to the membership. There might be some more questions, but hopefully by then it's mostly worked out.
Agreed with Melissa. You would have your treasurer present the items, like just like they're presenting their financial overview and they'd present the checks and items that they want to ratify, and that it would include checks signed and also funds to release. So it really helps units when you have that listed out in a slide or in the chat, or some people like to have slide decks and share them ahead of time like we are today, or send them in the chat so people can look at it and ask questions. And I think, again, back to the idea of not spending your entire meeting, you have to have your secretary please elect a timekeeper, and their job is not to be rude, but to realize that it is an agenda and you have to get through the entire agenda. So some people are like, oh, you said this meeting is going to be an hour and it's an hour and a half. And so for executive meetings versus general meetings, you can have more detail in an executive board meeting, and you can have a little less detail in the general association meeting. But it does help when it's listed out because people know what you're spending it on and you can get it approved quickly. And there is less time sunk into that conversation. And also, the first meeting may take a little while, and then the consequent meetings should be like shorter when it comes to that kind of stuff once your association gets like kind of a rhythm going with it. And just like Melissa said, transparency, transparency, transparency. You can share the budget with your members in your association, not everybody. At a meeting, you can present it to everyone, but it also helps when you have minutes and a summary of your minutes. That is when folks who are members can get, an update and get that information without sharing, of course, your bank information or any other details that could possibly get hacked. But I think it's very important to list the transparency. It can be presented as like a chart. It can be, just a Google sheet. There's lots of quick ways to make it easy and quick, but the timekeeper and making sure that people aren't spending 45 minutes on one item in the agenda for the conversation is really helpful. Then folks will get the idea that you've got to move on to all your agenda items, get through everyone's updates, and also leave time, just like we are today, for question and answer.
I want to add to that conversation with respect to budgets. So use last year's budget as your guideline to prepare for the upcoming, because you can see what was set aside the previous year and determine, did we make the budget or do we need to add to it? And then you can kind of adjust accordingly. For sometimes middle and high school, you might not have the teacher allotment or the department allotment. You do not have to like show that whole thing. You can just say departmental expenses line item. When you're presenting to general membership, it might be just one line item where you're showing that you have an allocation of XYZ of an amount for that. But in the executive board meeting, when the treasurer is presenting, you might click, he or she might click on the button, and within that departmental allocation, it opens up where you have, okay, math department is getting this amount, science is getting this amount, so that it may not be an even amount per department because the needs are different. Or elementary school, one classroom may get more because they have more kids than other ones. So the general membership doesn't need to see that background, because then they will start bickering, how come they got more and all this other stuff. You just have one line item that you show them so that they can see that there's a line item in the budget for it. But in the executive board meeting is when the treasurer can open it up and say, okay, we've had expenses from the science department against this line item. They're still within budget, la, 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 la. And then you just collapse that line so that it's just showing as one overall line in the budget, in the presentation. Does that make sense? So hopefully then it eliminates, and Tina and all of us have been talking about transparency. Everything that we presented to you today, every resource that we're giving you with respect to the toolkit that CAPTA provides, there's information on our website. All of this is meant to be guidelines to help you be transparent, because the more transparent you are, the easier it is for everybody to kind of understand and accept what you're doing, that they know that they have an assurance that you are treating their donation with respect, and that you're just not spending, oh, we're having a coffee thing for the executive or for whatever. I'm like, what about for the kids or whatever? So it just lends itself to your credibility, and the guidelines are there to help protect you, to just stay within the lines, because then if you're following the guidelines from year to year, then there isn't somebody that can point the finger backwards or forwards like, wait, they weren't following the rules. Like, why do we have to follow the rules? So you're just setting a positive precedent for all of that. I think Veronica has a question.
Yeah. Oh, just to be mindful, I know it's 7:02. If you
Oh,
want to stay on, you're more than welcome to. I can stay on longer if you need to ask any questions. But thank you again for coming for those who came. And I'm gonna stop recording. So.